Unlock your true potential, 7 brutal truths about success you've never heard. The air crackled with an electrifying energy, making every hair on the back of your neck stand up. People whispered in tense murmurs, eyes wide with disbelief. It was happening again. A mysterious force was drawing crowds to this unassuming town hall, promising answers to questions no one thought to ask. What were these truths? What hid beneath the surface of success, lurking like a shadow? As the clock struck midnight, a deep hum echoed through the room. It vibrated in your chest, a feeling like both a warning and a beckoning. The lights flickered, casting ominous shadows, while a figure cloaked in darkness stepped forward. Was it an illusion? Or was everyone truly caught in the web of something unspeakable? Hints of strange events surrounded the gathering. An old woman, clutching a crumpled flyer, claimed she had watched her husband's dreams dissolve into dust after a single wrong choice. A young man with wild, desperate eyes spoke of a deal with fate gone horribly wrong, and the room held its breath. Each story painted a picture of paths not taken, of lives drifting apart like leaves withering in autumn. Then came the first truth. Success, the figure whispered, an emotion-laden rasp echoing through the tense room, demands a price you never anticipated. Gasps floated around, and you could hear the tightening jaws of the crowd, hearts thundering as they pondered the sacrifices each of them might need to make. Would their dreams come at such a cost? The weight of unfulfilled potential loomed heavily. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads-up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The figure's eyes glinted in the dim light, swimming with the secrets of the universe. Everyone hung on to the next words like lifelines, breaths caught in throats. But beware, she warned. Truths uncovered can lead to dark paths. Some might wish to turn back. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room. A figure tumbled in, a wild-eyed woman, dripping with rain. You have to listen. She screamed, the fire in her voice shaking the foundations of that mysterious night. I know the cost. I had to pay it. Shock rippled through the crowd, confusion and fear replacing the earlier energy. Who was she? What had happened to her? The glint in her eyes suggested a gripping truth she was desperate to share. As all eyes turned to her, a chilling silence fell, thick enough to slice through. Would this stranger reveal the ultimate truth about success? Or would she only plunge everyone deeper into chaos? The woman steadied herself, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Her hair was plastered to her forehead, and water dripped from her clothes, pooling on the floor. The tension in the room was palpable, like a tightrope stretched too thin. Filled with dread and exhilaration, the crowd leaned in, hands gripping the edges of wooden chairs, eyes glimmering with a mixture of hope and fear. Listen. She implored again, desperation burning in her voice. You think you can reach for the stars without consequence? No. It's a gamble. You step forward, but you need to understand what you're risking. The weight of her words hung in the air. A mix of awe and hesitation swept through the crowd like a gust of wind through leaves. The cloaked figure took a step back, allowing the woman the floor. What did you lose? Someone called, their voice cutting through the stillness, testing the fragile calm. Murmurs erupted as the crowd sought answers. My son. The woman's declaration pierced through the chatter, silencing the room like a gunshot. I chased my dreams, but in doing so, I lost him, my very reason for living. She hugged herself tight as if trying to physically hold the memories from escaping, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. A few gasps filled the air, others shifted uncomfortably in their seats, hearts turning cold. There was an understanding in that moment, a flicker of recognition. Dreams come with sacrifices, the cloaked figure interjected, her voice softer now, almost nurturing. What is success without the ones we love? Every choice carves a path, and some lead us away from those we treasure most. The wild-eyed woman nodded fervently, her passion igniting the crowd again. I thought I could handle the price. I thought I was strong enough. But I wasn't, and now, she trailed off, pain spilling from her like dark ink on a white page. Now I'm left with nothing but echoes of what could be been. The atmosphere shifted, tension sharpening into a tangible sadness. Faces softened, vulnerabilities peeled back. A realization hung in the air, heavy and cold. It was a reminder of what lay at the heart of every ambition, the delicate balance between want and loss. The desperate glances shared within the crowd echoed universal fears, reflecting each individual's unspoken anxieties. Don't be fooled, the figure warned sharply. This is the second truth. Each ounce of success demands a toll. Failure comes not just from the outside world but from within yourself. Do you possess the strength to sacrifice what matters most? A ripple of dread washed over the audience as they absorbed her words. Some shook their heads slowly, regret etched on their faces. Others exchanged furtive glances, contemplating the dreams they held close but were too afraid to chase. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness for a heartbeat. When they returned, a new figure stood beside the woman, the silhouette of a man, his eyes shadowed but radiating an aura of authority. Whispers surged, a fresh wave of uncertainty rolling over the crowd. Who is he? Someone murmured, while others held their breath, dread creeping back in. The man's lips curled into a faint smirk, revealing something sinister hidden beneath his composed exterior. What had he come to reveal? What shards of truth would shatter the already fragile hopes of the audience? As anxiety swirled like a tempest around them, the air became electric again, a brewing storm of revelations that could change everything. In that instant, a single question echoed loudly through the minds of all present: what cost would they be willing to pay for the success they so desperately sought? As the man stepped forward, the shadows danced with chilling anticipation. What dark truths awaited them? The man stepped into the flickering light, and the atmosphere shifted once more, thickening with an unnameable tension. He surveyed the audience, his eyes glinting like coal in the dark. You think you know sacrifice? He challenged, his voice deep and smooth, cutting through the lingering dread. Let me show you what real sacrifice looks like. Gasps dotted the assembled group, confusion mixing with curiosity. The wild-eyed woman, still wrapped in her own anguish, stepped back as if the sheer weight of his words could knock her off balance. What do you know about sacrifice? She shot back defiantly, shaking. You've never lived a moment of it. He only smiled, a chilling grin that seemed to echo 1,000 untold stories. Ah, but you're wrong, he replied, gliding forward with liquid grace. Sacrifice is not merely the loss of loved ones or dreams. No, it's the choices we make, the darkness we dwell in, betrayals we unleash upon ourselves. With each word, the crowd edged closer, enthralled and horrified in equal measure. The cloaked figure gazed up at him, a spark of uncertainty flaring in her cautious demeanor. What do you mean? She prompted, her voice wavering beneath the weight of his presence. Let me unveil the truth, he said, his tone dropping to a whisper that felt like ice moving through the room. You've all walked into a tangled web of ambition. You chase your dreams, but behind them lurks your greatest foe, yourself. He gestured dramatically, as if unveiling a revelation in a theater of shadows. The crowd leaned in, breathless. The moment you decide to reach for what you desire, he continued, you're also choosing to bury pieces of yourself, traits, friendships, values, all discarded in the pursuit of this shadow called success. The wild-eyed woman stiffened, her heart racing as dread clawed at her gut. That's not true, she insisted, yet her voice lacked the confidence it had moments ago. I sacrificed everything for my dreams, and I had to protect what mattered. Did you? He leaned closer, digging in. What if the truth is that you sacrificed more than you ever realized? What if your ambition didn't just cost you your son but turned you into someone you no longer recognize? That question hung between them, sharp and slicing through the air like a blade. The audience shuddered, unease swelling as they thought back on his words. Faces fell, and whispers erupted, a swell of doubt washing over them, forcing each individual to confront the bitter taste of reality. Could it be true? Had they unwittingly sold their souls for hollow achievements? The man seized the opportunity, making his final move. The third truth of sacrifice is this: you create a void, a dark recess within yourself where regrets and lost affection fester. What if I told you I could help you fill that void? Barely a heartbeat passed before the murmurs morphed into an outright clamor. What do you mean help? Who are you? Someone shouted from the back, fear mingling with urgency. He chuckled softly, the sound resonating like a distant thunderclap. Ah, but my friends, the help comes with a price, one far steeper than you could ever imagine. His gaze locked onto the wild-eyed woman, sending shivers down her spine. You'll have to confront the darkest corners of your existence, face the choices you've buried deep. Only then can you reclaim what you lost. As the truth dawned on her, hope battled against fear in her chest. Could she take that plunge? And if she did, what would she find waiting for her in that darkness? She looked around, her heart pounding beneath her wet clothes. The crowd was watching, faces etched with a mix of interest and trepidation. Yet deep within, a flicker of something ignited curiosity, perhaps. Or was it the desperate urge to reclaim what had been lost? Stay close, the man whispered, leaning into the silence. The journey toward the unimaginable begins now and holds unimaginable consequences. And with that, the air grew even heavier, a storm gathering above them, and the question remained: who among them would be willing to make a deal with the darkness? There was a pause, weighty and electric, as the man's words settled in the air. Every person in that room shared a fleeting moment of hesitation, eyes darting from one face to another, assessing the depths of desperation and desire lurking there. The wild-eyed woman took a shaky breath, her heart drumming in her chest. She could sense the turmoil around her, that collective yearning for something more, yet weighed down by the very choices they had made. Her thoughts raced. How many times had she sabotaged herself under the guise of progress? The idea bubbled angrily in her throat before she swallowed it back down. Stop! The voice sliced through the murmur. A man with a sharp jaw stepped forward, his face a mixture of fury and disbelief. You can't be serious. Are you really suggesting we dig up our past failures like they're trophies of shame? The man smiled, that same chilling grin, but it transformed into something sharper, almost predatory. Ah, but isn't that exactly what you do? You bury them until they festoon your mind like weeds in a garden, choking out the flowers of self-worth and hope. Gasps rippled through the audience. The realization hit them: the mundane burdens they carried were a tapestry woven with their own regrets. The cloaked figure shifted nervously, swallowed hard, and glanced around as if seeking escape, but her feet felt firmly rooted in the suffocating gloom. Fine, if you know so much about sacrifice, the man continued, then tell me, what would you deem worthy of redemption? A lover lost for ambition? A child neglected for a career? Or perhaps the friendships faded in the pursuit of something called success? The woman felt the heat rising to her cheeks, embarrassment flushing her. Each word struck like icicles cracking through her defenses. She couldn't afford to be vulnerable here, not in front of these strangers. Look at how you tremble. He taunted lightly, his voice deceptively gentle. It's the fear of facing the truth, isn't it? The fear that maybe, just maybe, you've sacrificed much more than what you're willing to admit. She wanted to scream, to lash out, to deny everything. But the truth was an unyielding phantom now hovering at the edge of her consciousness. Who are you? Someone else called out, weary but intrigued. What makes you think you have the power to change our lives? The man stepped forward, almost too close, invading personal space. It's not about power. It's about responsibility. I hold up a mirror, and I ask you to reflect not just on your past but also on your present, a present caught between who you are and who you wish you could be. Eyes flickered nervously. Secrets clung to the corners of the room like dust motes in the daylight. The heavy air grew colder, a collective understanding dawning on them like a slow sunrise. And once you confront the void inside, he lowered his voice, drawing them in. The price of filling it will be the heavy burden of truth. What will you surrender to reclaim lost fragments of yourself? Your comfort? Your pride? Or your very essence? The wild-eyed woman took a step back, her breath became thin, sharp. Would she truly be willing to stand before the mirror of her own life? No one wants despair, she whispered, her voice trembling, but what if I can't face it? What happens if I search that darkness and find only emptiness? Ah, he breathed, like a storm brewing on the horizon, that is where your journey begins, my dear. They had never known the real power of light until they had danced in darkness. But remember. A sudden roar of thunder shook the building, and lights flickered violently. You are at a threshold. The choice will soon be yours. The excitement was palpable yet suffocating, the air thick with uncertainty. At that moment, uncertainty twisted into trust or rebellion. What lay beyond the darkness? Hope or despair? The crowd stood at a precipice, ready to dive into the abyss. Do you dare to take that plunge? He asked, lowering the silence around them to a whisper. The choice awaited, looming larger with every passing heartbeat. The wild-eyed woman gripped her own courage like a lifeline. What would she uncover in that darkness? And behind her, the crowd held their breath. Would they follow her into the unknown? Would they ultimately make that fateful decision? As a soft wind slid through the cracks of the old building, only one thought remained clear. Every soul within was now poised, teetering on the brink of change, and the question left hanging was as old as time: would they dare to confront the ghosts of their past? The crack of thunder echoed again, louder this time, vibrating through the walls and rattling hearts within the room. Lights danced nervously, and the atmosphere crackled with tension. The wild-eyed woman felt the pull of the crowd. It was a tidal wave of energy, dragging her along willingly or not. Their anxious whispers filled her ears, voices trembling with unspoken fears and desires. Someone has to take the first step, murmured a voice from the back, laden with urgency. She turned to see a man with tousled hair, his palms gesturing upward as if to lift the weight from their collective conscience. What is the worst that could happen? We gain understanding. Yet fear gnawed at her. What if the void inside was too deep? What if reclaiming those lost fragments meant tearing open wounds that had barely scabbed over? Sweat clung to her skin, cold and clammy, as she knew they were all wrestling with the same thought, all assessing their shadows. Look inside. The man with the chilling grin urged, his eyes glimmering with fervor. You think the darkness is something to be feared? It's a canvas. A chance to paint over the mess you've made or to embrace it, raw and unfiltered. The wild-eyed woman's pulse quickened. Struggling to breathe through the tightness in her chest, she thought of everything she had buried: the dreams, the friendships, the unspoken hurts. Would they be stark reminders or tools of transformation? Are we really prepared to face those truths? To unearth what we've pushed aside? Another voice rose, shaky yet resolute. What if confessing those sacrifices doesn't bring enlightenment but despair? The crowd was shifting, swaying like tall grass in the wind. Their gazes met hers, questioning, pleading. The burden of choice settled heavily upon her shoulders as if she were the anchor in their restless sea. Your darkest moments don't define you, the man urged passionately, stepping closer, his voice reverberating like a drum in her ears. They're just pieces of a puzzle waiting to be put together in a new way. It's not the past that matters, it's how you interact with it, how you mold your future from the ashes of yesterday. The atmosphere crackled with possibility. Curiosity fused with dread, igniting something primal. Think of the connections you cast aside, he continued, his voice now softening, coaxing them like a gentle breeze. The family members, the lover you dismissed, the passions that faded into background noise. They haunt you, don't they? Nods rippled through the room, each acknowledgement heavy with the burden of shared heartache. It began to dawn on her that they weren't merely hesitating on the brink of vulnerability, they were teetering on the threshold of rebirth. Each of you is stronger than your fears, the man proclaimed, his intensity penetrating the fog of doubt. What might you uncover if you were bold enough to reach into that darkness? What if every sacrifice was a step towards something greater? Her heart pounded wildly. Adrenaline surged. Beneath the layers of fear coiled a whisper of hope, thrumming like a heartbeat. In that moment of collective hesitation, she caught a glimpse of what could lie ahead, a tapestry of healing, woven from courage and undeniable truth. Let us shed those fears together. Don't you see? The man's voice rose, wrapping around them like a heated embrace. This is the moment. Will you reclaim your narrative or allow it to be written by the ghosts of choices made? You stand at the precipice, what is at stake? The wild-eyed woman inhaled sharply. It was a call to arms, one that caused the air to thicken with electric possibility and despair. What would she reveal? What shadows would she confront? As the weight of their collective breaths drew closer, the crowd began to stir, a ripple of shifting resolve. Are you ready? She found herself whispering into the sudden silence, the gravity of her words igniting a spark among them, and then, as if answering her call, someone took a step forward. Just one. Heartbeats quickened. Who would join her? The choice hung in the air, heavy and tantalizing. But then, a new voice, this one young and scared, shouted from the back, what if we find something worse than we feared? A shudder ran through the room. It was a terrifying prospect, one that cracked open a fresh wound amidst the fading thunder. Doubt looming larger than before, she felt the walls closing in again, suffocating. Tension tightened like a noose as their eyes darted around in uncertainty. What secrets were they willing to unearth? And would they have the courage to face whatever darkness awaited them beyond the threshold? The moment hung precariously in the air, lingering with the potency of a storm about to break. The young voice broke the silence like glass shattering, its echo ricocheting off the walls, igniting a fresh wave of anxiety. The wild-eyed woman felt the weight of the room shift, anticipation mingling with dread. Who would be brave enough to speak up next? I don't want to unearth the past, shouted an older man, his voice cracking, raw like flesh pulled taut over bone. What if our brokenness isn't worth exposing? What good are these memories if they only dredge up pain? His words hung heavy, a festering wound reopening. The atmosphere thickened, charged with tension. Maybe that's the point, another voice piped up, meek but slicing through the noise. Maybe we can't heal without peeling back those layers. The crowd seemed to hold its breath, each heart racing. The wild-eyed woman felt as though she were floating, disconnected from the ground beneath her feet. There was something undeniably powerful about this shared vulnerability, and yet the fear threatened to drag her under. Would you rather remain shackled to what haunts you? The man with tousled hair stepped closer, his eyes blazing with conviction. Facing your shadows is how you step into the light. It's like wrestling with a ghost. Yes, it may be scary, but wouldn't you rather confront it than live in the unease? His passionate plea ignited flickers of courage, but the full wall of fear still loomed large. The crowd's whispers morphed into murmurings of dissent. Could they risk it all for clarity? For understanding, what if the truth shattered their fragile peace? She looked around, noticing the tension etched into their faces. Each heartbeat felt deep, echoing like a drum. In that moment, all eyes fell upon her. Please, someone croaked, vulnerability seeping from their voice like a wounded animal. Do we really want to do this? The woman felt the air grow thick, heavy with expectation. She had wanted to be honest, raw, yet how could she? Every intention struck her full force, but a gnawing doubt still tangled her thoughts. She stepped forward, her heart pounding. A breath escaped her lips, shaking like a fragile leaf. If we don't face it now, we remain prisoners of our pasts. The tremor in her voice acted as a match against the tinder of their uncertainty. But what if we confront the darkness and something worse comes crawling back? What if our pasts destroy us? Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, casting the room into sinister flashes. A collective gasp washed over the crowd. Her skin prickled as shadows flickered around the edges, engulfing the room in a tight embrace of doubt. "Stay together!" the man shouted, grasping a woman's hand nearby. "We can do this. No matter what lurks within our memories, we fight through it. We don't have to be defined by what we find." The fervor in his voice broke through the thick fog of fear, but what he offered felt like a fragile lifeline in a storm. As the thunder rolled once more, a bead of sweat trickled down the wild-eyed woman's spine. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath through her nose, clearing her mind for what was next. Was she truly ready to confront her ghosts? Then, with unexpected determination, she called out, "I'll go first." The weight of those words was palpable, like a heavy rock dropping into a silent pond, sending ripples cascading outward. And then, with a suddenness that knocked the wind from her chest, the room plunged into darkness as a loud crash echoed against its walls. In the pitch blackness, panic set in. Murmurs erupted again, voices overlapping, frantic and terrified. Had they unleashed something they couldn't control? What was lurking in that chaotic darkness? As fear gripped her, she wondered if they had truly prepared for this journey. Had they gone too far? The flickering lights returned, casting a jagged slant of illumination that revealed faces etched with terror and thrill. Something primal bubbled within her, a mix of fear and exhilaration. But the question persisted, what would emerge from the whispered shadows? Would they escape unscathed, or would this choice lead them into a revelation that shattered everything they thought they knew? As the moment stretched, the darkness felt like it was pressing in, waiting for its chance to swallow them whole. The air felt electric, charged with unsaid words and unacknowledged fears. Each flicker of light brought with it sharp faces, mouths agape in a mix of dread and anticipation. The wild-eyed woman felt her heart hammering, a drum in her chest that echoed louder with every second. She moved cautiously to the center of the room, her skin prickling like ice against flame. "Listen, I know this is terrifying," she began, her voice trembling. "But we need to face whatever is hidden in those shadows, no matter how painful." The older man's eyes narrowed. "And what if that pain is unbearable? What if we open Pandora's box and cannot close it again?" A flurry of restless murmurs erupted, scattering her thoughts. She took a deep breath, grounding herself. "We may find answers. We have to believe that there's healing on the other side." Suddenly, a chilling howl cut through the silence, reverberating off the walls like a wail from the abyss. The crowd recoiled, and she felt a chill grip her spine. What was that? Was it merely the storm outside, or was something darker at play? Her instincts screamed that this gathering was about to take a turn toward the unimaginable. "Is it just me, or is it getting colder?" a woman whispered, her voice hitching with fear. Heads bobbed in agreement, creating an unsettling chorus. In that moment, beneath the flickering turmoil, she recognized a silent plea in their eyes. They wanted her to lead, to take them somewhere, anywhere that wasn't this crushing void. Strength surged inside her, she had taken the plunge, but now was not the time to falter. "I won't let us spiral into despair," she shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony. "We're in this together. If we are united, we can face anything, even our pasts." With every word, a flicker of defiance spread through the group. An unsteady but eager hope threaded through the dread. Yet the room's atmosphere felt perilous, like a tightrope strung over a chasm. The shadows twisted and curled just out of reach, ever vigilant, waiting for the slightest crack in their resolve. "Then let us do it," someone shouted from the back, an unexpected voice rising like a flare in the night. "We're ready to face whatever is holding us." The wild-eyed woman darted a glance at the man with tousled hair, a silent agreement passing between them. They stepped closer together, fingers brushing as their fears blended into a single, roaring fire. Moments stretched, the agonizing anticipation humming in the air. Okay, she exhaled, feeling her pulse quicken as she continued, I'll share first. It's important, it's a start. As she opened her mouth, a gust of wind rushed through the room, extinguishing several lights. The cry of wind sounded like an anguished spirit, echoing off the walls. This time, there was no mistaking it, a presence was there, encroaching upon them, feeding off their fears. Did you hear that? Someone yelled, panic seeping into their words. Something is here. Darkness clawed at the edges of her sanity. Her mind raced through shadows she'd never wanted to confront. Had she truly opened the door to something monstrous? Everyone, hold hands. She commanded, grasping the nearest hands tightly, her heart pounding like a war drum of impending doom. But a sudden pulsing sound like a heartbeat boomed through the encroaching gloom, for sharp thuds in rhythm with their combined anxious breaths. As it lingered, it felt as if the walls themselves were closing in. Focus! She shouted, knuckles white with tension. We can't let fear take us. We must stand strong. Yet in her chest, fear simmered, a barely contained storm ready to erupt. Could they withstand this? All she could do was pray they could face what was lurking within, pray they weren't too broken to confront the darkness that awaited, and then, in the shimmering twilight of their fears, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Something was shifting, twisting, almost alive, and as it took form, it echoed a haunting whisper that sent chills racing down her spine. Are you ready for what you uncover? The question hung in the air. Heavy like the storm outside, and as the darkness deepened, she knew they were on the brink of something irrevocable. What awaited them in the shadows? Would they be ready to face the truth, whatever monstrous shape it took? The shadows coalesced, a thick miasma swirling around them, pregnant with tension and dread. With each pulse of the mysterious heartbeat, the atmosphere warped, as if gravity itself struggled against the overwhelming weight of their fears. She felt the grasp of hands tighten around hers, each person anchoring her to this reality, even as it threatened to spiral. Stay close. She urged, her voice barely a whisper now. Every instinct warned her to run, yet she couldn't abandon them. They were too far in, too close to whatever darkness lay ahead. Behind her, one of the women gasped, her grip slipping. No. Don't let go. Hold on. The man beside her bellowed, pulling her back into the circle formed by their clutching hands. The feeling of uncertainty gnawed at her heart. We can do this, we will confront it together, she said, though doubt twisted her tongue. It felt as if the darkness was searching for a weakness, a fissure to worm its way through. With trembling lips, she took a step forward, her voice stronger now. I'll begin. My truth is that I was raised by fear. She met their gazes, waiting for the ripple of understanding to settle in. Fear is woven into the fabric of my existence, it tells me to run. But I chose to stand. A flicker of light sputtered back to life, illuminating their faces. The wild-eyed woman caught a look of resolve in her companion's eyes, their breath steadying. They were with her. And then came the haunting question once more, brittle as glass, echoing through the corners of the room. Are you ready for what you uncover? It sent a shudder through the assembled group. Yes. They yelled together, a sound rising like a tide through the pregnant silence. They buckled against the tremors of sound that vibrated from the pulsating entity around them. Go on, the older man croaked, his voice quaking. What if we've been running from our truths, thinking that's the only way to survive? She said, feeling something shift in the air. What if the only path to freedom is through revealing our darkest fears? Explosive murmurs bounced around the darkness, uncertainty fraying their resolve. Every one of us carries a shadow, she continued, and tonight, we can shine a light on it. Even if that light hurts. Even if it terrifies. With a daring sense of purpose, she stepped deeper into the swirling shadows, sensing a change. The heartbeat was louder now, an imaginary percussion pounding through her veins. The darkness expanded outward, almost as if it were responding to her call. What do you fear the most? She asked herself as much as the others. What wound lies beneath your skin, the one you've long avoided? The very walls seemed to lean in, waiting for answers. Suddenly, a shriek sliced through the air, disrupting the spellbinding moment. It's coming for us. The woman who had called out earlier fell back, her face pale with dread. Turmoil erupted. They were still holding hands, but now panic surged through the circle, sparking an energy that felt primal. The wild-eyed woman grasped tightly, trying to bring order. Breathe. We're stronger than our fear. We can't let this pull us apart. Yet, even she could feel the grip of terror tightening around her heart, coursing through her body like a venom. The shadows writhed closer, probing her intensely, as if sensing the raw vulnerability spilling from them. Then, in that horrifying moment, she felt something, an energy crawling up her arm. Ice water flooded her veins, paralyzing her. We need to focus. We need to share. The pleas stumbled over each other, drowning out her words. Revelations can shatter this darkness. She cried, but her voice barely carried above the swell of chaos. Violent tremors shook the room as fear ignited anew, tearing through their defenses. Each member of the circle, though united, was battling their own private horrors, and amidst this chaos, she noticed a figure emerging from the shadows. A shadow that seemed all too familiar yet obscured enough not to be distinct. A chill ran through her, realizing she couldn't confront this alone. None of them could. But what? If they tried? What if they reached deep enough together? Together. She shouted. We need to face this together. We can't let it win. The shadows tasted their fear, but still something remained, a flickering ember of hope that refused to die out. But as the figure stepped forward, she found herself breathless. Will you embrace the darkness within? It whispered, its voice a serpentine caress. The question hung thick in the air as her heart raced. Decisions had to be made, truths revealed. But next, would it be their truths or the shadows that would shatter them? The room trembled, the shadows pulling back momentarily as the figure stepped closer. It was shrouded in flickering darkness, features obscured as if the shadows themselves were clinging possessively to its form. The voice continued to coil around them, seductive and unnerving, your darkest secrets, your hidden fears, they hold the key. Through the chaos, her heart raced, thundering like a war drum. What do you want from us? She demanded, the words spilling out sharper than she intended. The others shifted, their grips on her hand tightening, but she felt the strength wane slightly as doubt crept in again. Fear is a prison, the figure replied, its voice almost sing-song. And you've all been its willing captives. Embrace what you hide, and you will find liberation. Ignore it, and the shadows will consume you. A shiver resonated in each of them, a slight ripple communicating the swell of rising terror. The wild-eyed woman gasped, no. We won't give in. But her voice trembled, the defiance more a wish than a certainty. Are you so sure? The figure tilted its head, and the shadows unfurled revealing gleaming eyes, gleaming with promise and malice intertwined. Each of you carries a burden, something too vast to face alone. Share it, and perhaps this darkness will dissipate. The walls pressed inward, almost as if the space itself held its breath as a collective fear enveloped them. The man beside her shook his head, strands of hair falling over his eyes as he whispered, I want to share. I want to let it win. But you are not winning. She cried, the words exploding from her throat, tearing at the fabric of the suffocating atmosphere. It's already winning by making us believe we're alone in this. Breathe, she urged, realizing their shared panic only fueled the shadows. We've got to face this together. Trust me. As they steadied their breaths, she dared to confront the looming figure again. I'm not afraid of you, I will face my truth. The shadows shifted, recoiling slightly. In that moment of defiance, she saw something flickering within the figure, a hint of faltering certainty. The rest watched her, raw hope igniting in their eyes, trembling yet resolute, bracing herself, she declared, I fear abandonment. I've spent my life numbing myself to it, convincing myself I could stand alone. But that's a lie. The moment hung in heavy anticipation, each heart pounding, as if waiting for a thunderclap. The figure paused, its eyes narrowing. Admitting your fears is powerful. But will your companions do the same? One by one, each member of the circle hesitated, but then the wild-eyed woman shouted, I'm scared of being judged. Of never being enough. Slicing through the darkness, her truth cut deeper than a blade. Light flickered overhead, illuminating their faces as they all took a collective breath. The woman beside her said, I've hidden my pain for so long. I was bullied. I feared I was broken. They were pushing back, and the shadows recoiled, as if the very essence of their admission stung it. But the figure stepped forward, pressing in. And yet, what will you lose if you do not dig deeper? Fear is a shapeshifter, it plays on your insecurities. Who do you blame for it? A deep silence fell, the air thick with conviction and fear. Even in this illumination, there were secrets held too tightly. Your truths, it murmured, almost lovingly, will also unveil your darkest scars. The man who had resisted the longest let out a choked sound and stepped forwards, I fear the monster I've become, that I might hurt those I love. And just like that, the tension soared as a rush of collective realization poured in. The shadows writhed violently, responding to the power of their confessions, revealing glimpses of dread they'd tucked away for years. How deep can we go? She whispered, wonder and horror mixing within her chest. The more they unveiled, the more the shadows threatened to surge. Are you ready for the truth that truly lies beneath? It asked, the chilling voice wrapping back around them, a sinister promise pulsating beneath the surface. The figure began to dissolve into mist, formless yet eerily present. But the question hung in the air, like an open wound. What truths remained buried, waiting to be unearthed? A hush settled over the crowd, pin-drop silence pregnant with tension. The wild-eyed woman steeled herself, heart thrumming as the room hovered in the wake of confessions. I've always thought I was alone in this, she breathed, her voice barely breaking the heavy stillness. But we've just laid bare our fears like an offering together. In that moment, the shadows seemed to flicker, absorbing their words, almost vibrating with uncertainty. The figure, now partially luminous, shifted uneasily, as though it sensed the collective strength and vulnerability intermingling. But this is only the beginning, it hissed. The real truth awaits, darker than the deepest fears you could expose. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, but something started to unravel. Hope braided with newfound determination. No more hiding. No more running. The woman declared, her hands gripping those next to her tighter. What if we learn to embrace our shadows instead? What if we turn our pain into purpose? The answer hung in the air, sparking a shift. Faces began to break, softening as they recognized the power of their shared experiences. It was a revelation, lighting a fire in their chests. I lost my job and nearly lost my mind, a trembling voice chimed in. But I rebuilt myself, I became stronger. Facing that pain led me to something greater. The darkness recoiled slightly, as if struck. And I was bullied, but I learned that vulnerability is strength. Called another, their voice charged with urgency. As each confession blossomed into the open air, the shadows danced back, spitting and sputtering as if protesting this very exposure. What if we face not only our sacrifices but the lessons they bear? The wild-eyed woman stepped forward. What if we confront each shadow and demand it serve a purpose? Suddenly, a golden clarity floated in on the stormy air, lighting up the room. What do you desire beyond this fear? The figure rasped, eyes narrowing as they twisted within the shadows. What will you create, should you break free? Eyes lit up, the question sparking potential, bursting with promise rather than dread. I desire to inspire. Someone shouted, igniting nods, igniting hearts. I want to reclaim my family, charged another, an intense gleam in their gaze. A chorus of affirmations built into a crescendo, flowing through them like wildfire. I want to create. I want to love fiercely. I want to forgive. With each declaration, shadows shrunk, visibly pulling away as if fending off the light. It was exhilarating. They were hoisting the weight of their truth higher, illuminating pathways obscured by doubt. Together, we can weave our fears into something new, asserted the wild-eyed woman, her voice gaining power. They do not define us. They forge us. The figure stood still, suddenly precarious in the growing brightness. It blinked, confused. You've shown bravery, but pain is still a heavy burden. Are you sure you can carry it? Yes. They answered, voices swelling, unconsciously echoing the possibility that this was a true crossroads. The energy coalesced, a throaty roaring acknowledgement bouncing around the room. We choose this. The wild-eyed woman cried, and they held hands tighter. Let us embrace our fears, our truths. Someone shouted, and another replied, we're ready. Let it all in. And then, the shadows receded. With a sharp motion, the figure seemed to dissipate into a swirling mist of colors, fraying like unraveling threads. Faded echoes of fear swirled away like a caught breath released. All around them, the room grew lighter, vibrant warmth cascading down, infusing their hearts with an unexpected surge of joy. The wild-eyed woman felt her skin prickle with warmth, her heart swelling with pride. Look! She announced, pointing to the light stronger now, radiating from within each person surrounding her. A bond forged in truth. A new way forward. We have the power to transform. As the shadows thinned into nothingness, those haunting expectations began stitching themselves into a quilt of resilience. It was palpable, the collective courage pouring through. The brokenness, lighting up cracks long thought dark, barriers shattered, and warmth rose in vibrant blossoms, like flowers breaking through the frost. The crowd, united in spirit, began to glow. Let us grow from this. She whispered, overwhelmed but burning with determination. Here, in the most unlikely place, they had gathered together to break those metaphorical chains. They had become a tapestry of everything triumphantly imperfect. Never again will we be shackled by fear. The wild-eyed woman vowed, grinning wide, beset by the clarity of who they were and who they could still become. Holding on to that warmth, together, they exited the town hall, their fears transformed into a collective strength, guiding them into a radiant future. Now the night faded, illuminating potential and promise, and they stepped into the dawn, a team, a family, forever changed, tethered by truth, and unrelentingly ready for the world beyond. The not-so-distant shadows faded into whispers of a story now written, not just in fear, but in resilience, daring everyone to embrace their own journey toward healing. If this speaks to your heart, then dive deeper into your own beauty. But wait! You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories we have lined up. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. It's how we can keep bringing powerful messages like this one. Flood the comments section with your own reactions and theories about your journey. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see these truths so they can shine brighter. Each of you makes this community grow, and together we can keep the fire of transformation burning bright. Let us inspire each other.